This video is about vertical motion model. So with vertical motion models, there are three. If we are throwing an object up or if we're jumping up, we're going to use the equation H equals VT plus S. If we're going to throw an object downward, we're going to have the equation H equals negative 16t squared minus VT plus S. And when we drop an equation, there's going to be no middle term. It's just going to be H equals negative 16t squared plus S. So what do all these variables mean? Well, H is going to represent our end height. V is going to represent the velocity when we have a throw-drop equation. Remember that if we are throwing something up, it's going to be positive, and if we throw something down, it's going to be negative. T represents time, and in this case we're always going to use seconds, and S represents the start height. So notice though that all these equations have the number negative 16. That's because that's the force of gravity that moves something from a height down into the ground. So that number is always going to stay at negative 16. It's never going to change in our problems. So let's look at a couple of different examples. Number one, Ronald McDonald drops a pot from his window at a height of 250 feet. How long until it hits the ground? So first thing we have to decide is if this was a throw or drop equation. We see the word drops, so we know this is a dropped equation, which means that we're not going to have a velocity, so we're just going to leave that blank. So our start height of where the pot was before it fell out of the window was 250, and the ending height is when it hits the ground, so we're going to call the ground a height of 0. So if we're using the drop equation, that's H equals negative 16t squared plus S. So we are going to substitute the start height in for S, and we're going to substitute the end height in for H. So our equation then would be 0 equals negative 16t squared plus 250. Number two, you jump off a diving board 15 feet high with an initial velocity of 3 feet per second up. So that means our velocity is going to be positive. How long will it take for you to hit the water? So we don't see the word throw or drop in there, but anytime that there is a velocity involved in the problem, it's going to be a throw equation. So the start height is that you are on a 15-foot high diving board. The end height is when you hit the water, so again 0. And our velocity is going to be positive 3 because we are going up. So the throw equation is H equals negative 16t squared plus VT plus S. So in this case, we're going to substitute 15 in for S. We're going to substitute 0 in for H. And we're going to substitute 3 in for V. So when I substitute, I would get 0 equals negative 16t squared plus 3t plus 15. Let's look at one more example. So Joey throws water balloons from his 30-foot high roof with an initial velocity of 4 feet per second down. So that means if the velocity is going down, it's going to be negative. How long will it take for the water balloon to hit the ground? So again, this is a throw because we see the word throw. We also know that there's a velocity in the problem. The start height of where the balloon is at 30 feet, so the start height is going to be 30. It's going to hit the ground, so the height is going to be 0. And it has an initial velocity down, which means it's going to be a negative 4 for our velocity. So again, our throw equation is H equals negative 16t squared plus VT plus S. So we're going to substitute 30 in for S, 0 in for H, and this time we're going to do negative 4 in for V. So that means it's going to change this sign from a plus to a minus. So when I rewrite my equation, I'm going to have 0 equals negative 16t squared minus 4t plus 30.